The Hylians have been living in Hyrule for ages and always work together with the SHEIKAH. Together, they protect the triforce and are the leaders of the land. However, what would happen if they ended up in a war? These two allies, two hugely important races in a war for all the power. Well, let's find out. So these two groups would end up in a war. Just the two of them and nobody else. Who would be victorious? They have fought alongside each other in many wars and are similar to each other in many ways. But which of the two groups is more powerful? Well, let's first take a quick look at both races so we know all the important points. For example, strategy, technology, main bases, and more. First, the SHEIKAH and their leader Impa, also known as the Shadow Folk. They are a mysterious and secretive tribe with pointed ears, red eyes, and shadowy magic abilities. They are the chosen guardians of the goddess Hylia, and later the protectors of the descendants of her mortal incarnation, the royal family of Hyrule. They are also the founders of Kakariko village, which would become one of the main settlements of Hyrule. If a war would break out, then this would certainly be their main base. However, we have seen in other games that they have hidden ones as well. The hidden village from The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess served as the secret home to the SHEIKAH tribe. So of course they would also use those to surprise the Hylians. Their symbol can be found on various objects around Hyrule, such as on Gossip Stones and SHEIKAH Stones, the Lens of Truth, the Mask of Truth, Howling Stones, Time Shift Stones, and the entrance to the Shadow Temple, among many others. They are extremely good with magic and technology and often use this to their advantage, like we have seen in Breath of the Wild. We also saw their dark side in this game, where they split up in two groups, the good SHEIKAH and the evil Yiga clan. However, we will come back to that later on. They don't really have an army and rely a lot on the element of surprise and other shady tricks and magic to fool their opponents. Now, we haven't seen SHEIKAHs in combat a lot, but from what we have seen from the Yiga clan, they appear to use swords, sickles, bows that shoot multiple arrows, and they don't have any armor by the looks of it. What it comes down to is that they have a really good bond with the Hylians, so they know a lot about their new enemy. They are good with magic and technology, are skilled fighters as seen in a lot of games, and are also great spies with some interesting weapons. Examples of this have been seen in Breath of the Wild and Ocarina of Time with the stealthy and quite strong Yiga and the cunning Impa. However, there is one problem. Ocarina of Time implies that the SHEIKAH were nearly wiped out, defending the royal family of Hyrule during the Hyrulean Civil War. So that, together with the fact that they don't have a real army, are their biggest weak points. Now for the Hylians, whose leader is Princess Zelda, or the King of Hyrule. They descended from the people who lived among the goddess Hylia long prior to the establishment of Hyrule as a kingdom. They are a magic race with pointed ears who have inherited the blood, powers, and abilities of their ancient ancestors. One of the few known abilities that the Hylian people possess is the use of their pointed ears to receive special messages from the gods themselves. This also includes the ability to send telepathic messages to other Hylians across time and space. However you pronounce it, the guy from A Link to the Past, and an incarnation of Princess Zelda displayed this particular ability in A Link to the Past, the former being able to communicate to Link across even the void between dimensions to assist the young hero in his quest. Another special ability of the Hylians is their use of magic in musical notes that can aid in fast-forwarding time from day to night and night to day, summon instant rainstorms, and also teleportation to specific locations throughout the Kingdom of Hyrule. Their main base is Hyrule Castle, and besides that, they're also found in Kakariko village. However, they would most likely leave this place if a war broke out between the Hylians and the SHEIKAH. When we look at their warriors, then there are three clear groups. First, the Hyrule Guards of the various towns. They are good fighters, but nothing outstanding. They wear plate armor and carry a sword and shield most of the time, and some of them have bows and shoot at you. These were mostly seen in The Legend of Zelda A Link to the Past. Secondly, we have the Hyrulean Soldiers, which are part of their actual army. They also have plate armor and use spears, swords, and shields a lot. It's unknown if they're stronger than the guards, but as far as I can see, they're about as strong. However, they have stronger weapons as seen in Breath of the Wild, and most likely have more experience with actual warfare. Now for the best and last one, the Knights of Hyrule. They are ancient and have been protecting the royal family of Hyrule for a long time. However, during the imprisoning war, most of them were killed, but they're still seen in a lot of games. So the Hylians have a strong army, a good base, can communicate easily, can use advanced magic, and there are a lot of them. However, when it comes to collecting information about the enemy, they're not that good, since the Sheikah usually did this for them, and they also don't know a whole lot about the Sheikahs. For example, nobody in Hyrule knew where the hidden village was, so the Sheikah probably never told anyone about it. So now that we know their pros and cons, we can see which side would win this war. There are two huge differences between these two forces. One is a real kingdom with an army, and the other is more a tribe that has individual warriors and fighters. A war between these two would be very different from the one we discussed in the previous video, with the Gorons versus the Zora. In that example, there were two nations with capitals and armies taking each other on. What this will turn into is called Guerrilla Warfare. This is a former or irregular warfare in which a small group of combatants, such as paramilitary personnel, armed civilians, or anyone else really, use military tactics including ambushes, sabotage, raids, petty warfare, hit-and-run tactics, and mobility to fight a large and less mobile traditional military army. Essentially a small group of less organized fighters with no budget at all, taking on an insane force. We have seen this in history multiple times, for example in Vietnam with the Americans fighting a bunch of communists in a rainforest. The enemy would use traps, ambushes, anything really to trick and take out their enemy. Even ISIS, which almost everyone in the West is fighting now, uses guerrilla warfare to take on entire nations and does this with varying degrees of success. I'm 100% sure that Sheikah will use similar tactics and overall style of warfare if they would take on a nation as big as Hyrule. One great example of this is the Yiga clan. They clearly use such tactics, however they're not that smart, and their goal is bringing back Ganondorf, not defeating the Hylians. So if their goal was taking over Hyrule, then they would actually take on bases, assassinate important leaders and figures, spy on them, steal important documents, set traps, ambush groups of soldiers, and way more. All of this would also be very simple for the Sheikah. They are like ninjas after all, and even have hidden bases. The weapons they use are also very handy for this. The multi-shot bow is great for ambushing, and the small melee weapon can easily be concealed and are very fast to use. Besides that, they can also use magic to trick the Hylians. They made artifacts like the Mask of Truth, which would be great for interrogating, or the Lens of Truth, which can reveal their own hidden bases. They could even infiltrate the Hylian ranks and sabotage them from within. We know they can do this since the Yiga disguise themselves all the time in Breath of the Wild. With tactics like this, they could take over Hyrule bit by bit, and over time win. Especially if they have new technology, like the Guardians or Sheikah Slate. So are the Hylians doomed then? Well, no. They have a capital, a lot of resources, and a huge army. However, can they counter their guerrilla tactics? We have seen that armies can adjust to these circumstances and crush the enemy quite quickly. It kind of depends if they have experience with this kind of fighting. And surprisingly enough, they have seen this before. Long ago, before the events of Ocarina of Time, there was a huge civil war. And when the war ended, the land was unified under one banner. In this conflict, they most likely used some guerrilla tactics as well. So they at least had some sort of experience with it. So they will probably adjust quite quickly and drive them back. In the beginning, the Sheikah will probably have the upper hand because of the element of surprise. However, after that, they will have a tough time. The Hylians will never completely defeat them, however. What usually happens is that they will lose a lot of their influence and power, but there's no real way of defeating them forever. There's no finish line. With a nation, you win, take down their government, and that's usually it. The army is funded and controlled by the leaders of the country after all. Sure, you might end up with some rebels, but that's not the same. It all depends on how long the Sheikah can outsmart their enemy, and how fast the Hylians figure out the tactics of their opponent. The leader also plays a big role in this, and I think Princess Zelda, or the King of Hyrule, is more prepared for all of this than Impa. Sure, the Sheikah would have a lot of information on them, but the Hylians are everywhere and have a huge stronghold. It's probably too much for them. However, if the Sheikah can use their advanced technology, then the Hylians would certainly lose. So I will leave that out for now. It's a bit overpowered and unfair in my opinion. I would say the Hylians win because of their huge amount of resources and manpower. This gives them quite a lot of time to figure out what's happening before they run out of everything. And when they finally find the enemy bases, they can take them out quite easily with their entire army. Soldiers armed to the teeth are certainly stronger than the ninja-like Sheikah when it comes to army-style combat. The sword, shields, and plate armor is the best choice in that scenario. So as long as the Hylians don't fall in any traps, they will win. But do tell me in the comments what you think. Would the Hylians win or the Sheikah? Thanks for watching everybody, I hope you enjoyed. If you want to watch more videos, click the annotations on the screen right now. And if you don't want to miss any videos, then click on the subscribe button and the little bell, because then you won't miss anything.